Probably around 50 years ago, a couple of hunters had a grand old time blasting this tree to smithereens. But unfortunately, after one of the last storms, this tree finally gave up the ghost. I decided that this would be a good opportunity to try to hand split some lumber out of these trees. I've never done this before, so if you're looking for a how-to video to educate you, this is definitely not it. The first thing I did was to skin all the bark off of the tree just so I could have a cleaner and easier working space. I also knew that eventually I was going to skin them anyway before using them to build with, and it just seemed easier to do that while the tree was all in one piece. Okay, so the first step is just splitting the log in half, and then we're going to split it in half again to get it down to a usable piece of lumber size. Obviously, I do not have the right equipment for this job. I had one real wedge. I obviously did not have a real sledgehammer. I had an axe and a splitting maul. So that's what I'm working with. If I was going to go do 30 of these logs, I would obviously go out and get the right equipment, buy a bunch of wedges. I do now have a sledgehammer, but unfortunately at the time I did not, so I just looked goofy using this tiny little 5-pound or 3-pound maybe sledge. You can see here I was trying to use the back of a different splitting maul I have as a sledgehammer. Unfortunately that didn't really work real well because the back of that sledgehammer is all smashed up and it's kind of like cone shaped at the end. So trying to get a solid hit on the wedges just didn't really work out real great, so unfortunately I had to go back to the 3-pound sledgehammer. So you might be wondering why I'm even bothering trying to split these by hand. Well, one, I don't have a sawmill, so I can't mill lumber if I wanted to. I could cut these with a chainsaw, but one of the reasons I wanted to try this was just simply to try doing it, to get the experience, to appreciate how hard it was for people to split logs for thousands and thousands of years. And then one of the other reasons is because for building posts, it's actually a much stronger post that you get out by splitting instead of cutting. When you cut the logs, you tear through all of the fibers of the natural grain, whereas when you're splitting, you're just spreading them apart and separating them. Obviously, at the end, you have to cut a couple of the stringers that are hanging on at the end, but overall, you get a much stronger, tougher post or beam or whatever you're using it for out of that log than cutting it with the chainsaw. So yeah, I just wanted to try it and see how it went, and I definitely gained an appreciation for how difficult it is. I think in hindsight, I really should have cut a couple of wedges out of wood and used those to aid in the process. But with this being oak, I wasn't entirely sure how that would work. If this would have been like a pine tree or something, I think overall it just would have been a lot easier. Getting these first two pieces out of the single log really felt good and was really satisfying. That first split is definitely the hardest. It's a lot like cutting a piece of firewood, where your very first split is really difficult, but then every subsequent split after that is a lot easier. So splitting this into quarters now, you'll see goes by much faster. I also think I just started to figure out the process a little bit better, and definitely could see how if I had a couple wedges and a sledgehammer that you could get this process down to be a little bit more efficient and a little bit easier and quicker. If you've been wondering what I'm going to use this lumber for, I hope to use it for an outdoor shower. I will try to link the video to that build somewhere down below or on screen someplace. Doing things by hand like this, I always find very rewarding, and it makes me feel almost connected to a past part of humanity, just to think that people for so many years did things this way, human-powered, by hand, and now that we have an easier way, we just neglect to even put any value in the more difficult way. But I think it's really rewarding, and it can be a really powerful thing to feel connected to the past in that way. So I would definitely encourage you, even if you don't have the right tools like I do, try to just do something the more difficult way or the old-fashioned way, and I think you'll find it really rewarding. Alright, getting down to one of the last pieces for today, and man, this is one of the best parts about doing this whole process. That noise when the wood starts to split apart and it kind of sounds like popcorn, Man, that is just so satisfying. It's such a good feeling when you start hearing that and feeling the wood like really split apart. Alright, and there we are, all done for today. Thanks for watching the video. If you want to check out that shower build, like I said, I'll link that video down below. And appreciate you watching this rather boring process, honestly.